Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So sorry if things sound a little bit different. Yeah, I just got over a sinus infection, and then I had my COVID booster, and all sorts of nonsense. So long story short, if I sound a little bit different or under the weather, then that's why. If not, cool, no one knows. Excellent. Anyway, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Keeps. Did you know that 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? For immortal god-slaying guardians, that means that hair loss is going to be a problem at some point. It's just a question of when. Thankfully, with Keeps, you can prevent hair loss by doing something about it while you still have hair left. With Keeps, you can get treated at home, and your product gets shipped to your door. You'll know that your product is right for you because a licensed doctor will recommend a treatment plan for you based on your information. Keeps treatments typically take about 4 to 6 months to start seeing results, so it's important to act now and do something about your hair fast. Find out why Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors and why it's trusted by thousands of men by trying it for yourself. If you're ready to take action to prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/bife or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/bife. Thanks again to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. Months back, we got what was for the time meant to be one of the last lore entries in the Ripples lore book for this season, and it was an entry that was really important because it came hot off the heels of Savathûn revealing to Crow his past as Uldren Sov, and the entry was basically Crow and Glint, his ghost, dealing with the repercussions of that. Now, we've already covered this, but it ended up on a bit of a cliffhanger. After we saw everything of Crow and Glint getting this moment where it was kind of clear that Glint still accepted him as family, it was very much a strange cliffhanger because after that, Crow then went to Venus for seemingly unknown purposes. And today, whilst everyone has speculated on what those purposes were, we can now confirm what those purposes were. For context, this is thanks to a Bungie employee. Robert Brooks on Twitter, I believe it's Robert Brooks at least, tweeted that the lore entry here had shipped in a bugged state and was incomplete. The lore tab is now complete, and it doesn't cut off halfway through. And as a result, we can see what story we missed, and we can actually see the reason why Crow was headed to Venus. So, for a refresher, just remember that this is just after Savathûn revealed the nature of Crow's past life as Uldren Sov to him, and also it's something that made him flee his assignment, that placed him near the Reef and the Witch Queen. This is a major turning point for Crow's character, and it's really the reckoning that we all sort of knew was going to happen. This is how Crow would ultimately reckon with this newfound knowledge. It's displayed yet again in that lore tab entry for Ripples, and it reads in full this time as follows. Space is loneliness. Far removed from any system's planets, it is at once suffocatingly dark and blindingly bright, depending on which way you turn. A jump ship sits in a fixed position in the black, engines off, oriented so its underbelly faces the glare of the distant sun. There is no true cockpit inside the radiant accipiter. The ship's canopy projects an image to the pilot. No frame, no obstructions, just the infinite gulf. Crow stares up at the blackness between a cluster of stars he can't identify. He wishes he were there. Where nothing is known, where everything can be new again. Glint rests on his guardian's lap. He's accustomed to Crow's hands, cradling him as though he were a small cat. But in this moment, Crow's head is instead in his hands, fingers tangled in his hair. Glint is silent, patient. He knows he has to be. Crow makes a small sound in the back of his throat, and the ghost stirs. When this is followed by an unsteady hitch in his breathing, Glint floats up, presses himself to Crow's chest, and begins to hum. Crow's hands close around him, clutching him against his heart. And that's how Glint knows. Crow is still the same inside. Sulphurous plumes rise from fissures in the Venusian soil. Crow marches across the planet's surface, his boots crushing thin sheets of calcium that skim across shallow, iridescent pools of water. His jump ship is perched atop a rise nearby, clear of the unstable field he now traverses. "Crow, please," Glint pleads over his guardian's shoulder. "Can you tell me why we're here?" Ahead, clouds of light and geometric shape bloom into being. Glint lets out a sharp gasp and transmats away as Crow reaches for the hand cannon at his side. By the time the first Vex goblin manifests, Crow has already trained his sights on it. A single pull of the trigger takes the machine's head off and sends it staggering across the field, firing blindly. Two more goblins appear nearby and Crow blasts away their limbs like a child separating a fly from its wings. He ends them with the last bullets in the cylinder. A shimmer of violet light within the temporal storm heralds the arrival of a Vex Minotaur. It bellows a roar across the Venusian flats and fires a volley of energized plasma through the air. Crow weaves between them, tumbles forward through the shallow pools, and rises to his feet to shake out his hand cannon's cylinder, sending brass shell casings raining to the ground. The Minotaur revises its place in history, appearing to teleport forward as it shifts to a more advantageous future. It closes in on Crow before he can finish reloading and grabs him by the head, hefting him off his feet. The Minotaur raises its plasma cannon to Crow's chest and... Crow sucks in a sharp breath, and his eyes open to winged serpents circling in the cloudy Venusian sky. He coughs violently, rolling onto his side. The Vex are gone. "That was stupid," Glint chastises suddenly, and Crow remembers where and when he is. "Why didn't you use your light?" "I wanted to test something," Crow says on sharp exhale. He pushed himself to his feet, only to find Glint an inch in front of his nose. "What could you possibly be testing all the way out here?" the little ghost asks, looking around the desolate landscape. Then, the question Glint doesn't want to ask. "Were you trying to hurt yourself?" "No," Crow seethes. He nudges Glint to the side and starts to head back for the jump ship. But Glint persists. "Then why?" he demands, blocking Crow's path. "Because I wanted to know I was still me," Crow snarls, his teeth bared in a display of fury. "Uldren Sov could defeat a Minotaur without the light," his hackles lower. I need to be sure that I'm not him. That you could still bring me back. That I was still worthy of this." Glint's monocular eye bobs down to look at the ground. He is silent. This time, Crow doesn't try to push past him. He stands still, listening to the blast of distant geysers, to the call of serpents in the sky. "I'm sorry," Glint whispers. So we can see that this entry is very much about Crow proving to himself that he's not the same man that he used to be, and in a sense, it's one of those tests of whether he is still worthy. He's tied his idea of his current fate and his destiny to the vision of himself being given purpose through his role as a guardian, and he has an understanding of what guardians are supposed to stand for and what they're meant to be. He also understands that that is very much in contrary with some of the things that Uldren Sov has done. The creation of the Scorn, his many actions against the Awoken people, and, of course, the murder of Cayde Six. These are actions that do not align with his idea of what a Guardian of the Light should be, and naturally, of course, he is feeling guilt. It's a moment here that is very much a conclusion to one chapter of his story in one way, and the opening of a new one where he is indeed burdened by his regret, one where he is going to have to reckon with his past and the things that he did in his life before. Fundamentally, Crow is going to have to accept what for him is going to be the hardest thing to acknowledge, which is that he and Uldren Sov are not the same person. However, it's really interesting that the fight against the Minotaur without the use of his light was actually one of the tests that he decided to go ahead and do, And the reason I say this is because it's actually a trial that Uldren endured in a much more dramatic fashion. When he went to the Black Garden with Jolyon Tildarakis, there was a moment where he had to draw out the Vex Gate Lord responsible for the Black Garden Gate on Mars in order to gain access to the mysterious realm out of time. In that encounter, he actually bested the Minotaur in combat, and not necessarily through any kind of means of martial prowess. He actually used a little bit of trickery and a little assistance from Cabal. Not that they knew they were assisting him. If memory serves me correctly, they simply bombard the Vex Gate Lord from orbit, and Crow encourages them to do so effectively by engaging the Vex forces, and allowing them to sort of see the Minotaur as a bit of a distraction. Using all of this, Uldren and Jolyon gain access to the Vex Gate network, and are then able to enter the Black Garden. Besting a Minotaur without the use of his light is, in a way, Crow sort of remembering all of this. I think something else that was never truly confirmed, but is also kind of interesting here, is that maybe this proves a little bit more that memories of Uldren's are now fully accessed to Crow. There was always a question of whether Savathun had truly unlocked all of his memories, or whether she'd just done certain selective ones. But these are so unfiltered that it might seem to indicate that he does indeed have his full memory. It's one of those weird moments where we will never truly be able to tell, I think, but moments such as these don't necessarily serve Savathun's cause, and so I think it's fair to say that, yeah, maybe in this instance, Crow is actually just seeing the unfiltered memories of his past life. All of this again leads back to that point that I mentioned earlier. Crow is not Uldren. Crow is more than simply the skills of the man that he used to be, and he acknowledges that he is now intrinsically tied to the light, and that at least a part of his strength has manifested itself in this way. That alone is perhaps enough to qualify as a difference between Crow and Uldren for some, himself most certainly included. But perhaps that's why Glint's acceptance of his guardian is just as important as all of this. It's one of these moments where, more than anything else, right now, Crow needs friends. Crow needs to remember and to be told firmly and clearly that he does still belong, and that the things that he did in his past life can indeed be forgiven, if not redeemed. So, now, with a little more context, we understand the whole of the current arc of Crow's story, and we can also see where everything led on Venus, and it wasn't actually as significant a test as I thought it was going to be. There wasn't some great cache of knowledge that Uldren had hidden away, there wasn't some artifact from his past. It was very simply a test, one that Crow was measuring himself against. So, with all of that said, let's go ahead and call it there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video, and if you want more Destiny lore content, go ahead and hit subscribe, and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. I'm going to do my best to try and get back on the schedule for things. It's been a bit weird considering the last few days I've been out with illness, and things generally have been a lot slower over the last few months. I know I took a big break back in November as well, and I did have a long schedule's worth of content to get through, and it's still very much the case that I'm looking to get through a lot of that, but ultimately it's just a case of let's see how much we can do. Tell me what you want next though, and tell me down below in the comment section, because I want to know whether you guys would like me to be covering the recent Witch Queen trailer that dropped, or whether you want me covering something else. There are many topics that we need to talk about as far as the lore is concerned, and yeah, I'd love to go ahead and see what you all think. But as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Rhodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.